Kiyotaka Ayanokouji begins high school at Tokyo Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing, which boasts a 100% college admission and employment rate upon graduation. Though little is known about the specifics of the government-funded institution, the school is divided into 4 classes, A through D, with the former at the top. He's confronted by another student as he exits the bus, whom he glanced at after no one gave up their seat. It turns out she's in the same class, where one student tries to get everyone to introduce themselves because the teacher hasn't arrived yet. Ayanokouji stumbles through his before Sei Chabashira, 1D's homeroom teacher, explains that students must stay on campus, which has everything they need. Instead of money, each student is given 100,000 points at the start of each month, with 1 point equaling 1 yen. She goes on to explain how merit determines everything. He runs into the same girl while running errands, and she reluctantly tells him her name, Suzune Horikita. Except for the 2 quiet loners, the rest of the class forms groups. Kikyou Kushida, who claims to want to befriend everyone, asks Ayanokouji for assistance with Suzune because he is the only person with whom she communicates. She leaves as soon as she figures out Kushida's plan and asks her to accompany him to a cafe. The majority of the class takes advantage of their points while ignoring their studies. When May 1st arrives, nobody receives the points that their actions deserved. There is a chance to advance in the ranks, but D class is already at the bottom. Another failed exam means expulsion. Suzune buys Ayanokouji a fancy lunch and tells her how 3 of their classmates with the lowest grades refuse to join the rest of the students' study group. She uses the lunch as leverage because he now owes her. Her goal is to advance through the ranks, eventually reaching a class. Ayanokouji tries to persuade Ken Sudo, Kanji Ike, and Haruki Yamachi to join their study group, but they all refuse without even listening to him out. He decides, with few options, to contact Kushida and use her as an ambassador to persuade them. She agrees, but only if she participates in the study group. Suzune flatly refuses her participation, answering before he can explain. The 3 leave their first session after Sudo refuses to deal with Suzune in order to further his basketball career. Ayanokouji overhears a disagreement between Suzune and her older brother, the student council president, and intervenes before he can assault her, while also keeping up with Manabu, who tries to fight. He takes a step back after realizing Ayanokouji is the student who gets 50% on every test, including the entry exams, which he claims is a coincidence. Suzune is serious about disbanding the study group, and the 2 speak after Manabu leaves, giving Sudo answers to each other's questions. Despite this, Class D outperforms some of the other first-year classes. Suzune is suspicious and wonders what Ayanokouji did to influence the outcome. He had noticed Sudo being harassed by 3 students from Class C a few days before after hearing about his potential expulsion. Before things get out of hand, another student, Hanami, intervenes and threatens to report the perpetrators. Sudo is still refusing to study with Ayanokouji after witnessing the incident. So he asks an upper year D class for copies of his first year exams, offering 10,000 points, eventually settling for 15,000 and including a few quizzes as well. As she distributes copies to the class, Ayanokouji requests that Kushida take credit. Sudo fails by 1 point despite everything. Ayanokouji follows their teacher, Chabashira, as she goes for a smoke break before meeting Sudo for his expulsion. He recalls her saying that everything at the school can be purchased with points and offered to buy the extra mark for Sudo to pass for 100,000 points. Suzune appears behind him and offers to pay half. Though no D-class member has ever risen through the ranks before, their efforts may be in vain. That night, they have a party in Ayanokouji's dorm. When asked how he was able to persuade the teacher, he deflects responsibility to Suzune, who becomes flustered while trying to explain. Kushida forgets about her phone in his room. While returning it, Ayanokouji notices her furiously kicking a railing and cursing Suzune, fostering a deep hatred for her. Kushida threatens to accuse him of sexual assault if he reveals her true personality when she notices him. She returns to her uncanny cheerful demeanor as soon as he agrees and says she can trust him. He wonders if it's all an act. Hanami, it turns out, is the representative from Class 1B and is widely praised for her assistance in raising test scores. Like Suzune, she aspires to reach Class A in the rankings. While stuck in an elevator with her and Suzune, Ayanokouji is reminded of the sinister confrontation with Kushida and is unsure what to make of it. Hanami approaches them before walking to class, greeting Kushida as Suzune goes ahead and wonders if Class D has received their points yet. Apparently, there has been a delay. Later, Ayanokouji meets Hanami, who begs him to pretend to be her boyfriend because she doesn't know how to refuse the person who left a letter in her locker. When the girl arrives, he claims to be just her friend. After Hanami apologizes for putting him in that situation, she owes him one. Class D's points will not be distributed unless they can resolve an incident that occurred the day before. Koudo was attacked by 2 of his basketball teammates and a Class C friend. He claims it was in self-defense. However, without a witness, proving his innocence before the hearing the following week will result in another month without D-class points. They've made little progress on message boards when Hanami approaches Ayanokouji, Kushida, and Koudo's friends. Initially suspicious, she assures him that she is simply returning the favor and assists in the search for witnesses. Hanami's classmate receives an anonymous tip on one of Koudo's assailants. Ayanokouji notices Hanami's incredibly high balance while attempting to pay them anonymously from her phone, and wonders what she did to obtain it. Ayanokouji discovers Kushida and Koudo's friends in his dorm, allegedly copying his room key. Suzune notices the shoes after knocking and nearly leaves before revealing her suspicions about Sakura knowing something, a girl in their class who's been acting strangely since then. The next day, when they confront her, she panics, drops her camera, denies knowing anything, and flees, unable to turn it on. Ayanokouji and Kushida accompany Sakura to an electronics store to have the camera repaired. When the clerk asks her to fill out the contact form, it's clear why he needed to come. Ayanokouji uses his information to calm her fears. When Kushida leaves the two alone, Sakura admits that she doesn't see anything in his eyes, despite being able to look into them. Kushida returns to his dorm and shows Ayanokouji pictures of an internet model they believe is Sakura. He noticed her glasses were fake, which made sense given this new discovery. Suzune appears irritated that he is spending the day with them. Manabu preside over the hearing that day after class. The ruling favors Class C because their injuries clearly outweigh Koudo's. However, their accusations and the entire situation appear to be flawed. Ayanokouji makes Suzune stand up and defend her classmate, summoning Sakura as a witness. Her picture isn't enough to get Class C's teacher to back down. Suzune refuses to accept this and is adamant about Koudo's innocence. Class C's actions were clearly premeditated. Manabu contends that one of the parties must be lying. If neither party can prove their claims, his decision will be made the next day, with more severe consequences, even expulsion, on the table. Following that, Manabu runs into Ayanokouji and Sakura in the hall and assumes they had a plan, implying Sakura's story was a lie. Manabu almost hits Ayanokouji when he defends her, saying he believes every word she says. Ayanokouji simply says he'll have to wait after dodging at the last second, surprising Sakura and Manabu's secretary. Sakura collapses in tears after discovering pictures of herself in her mailbox, apparently from a stalker. Ayanokouji and Suzune discover that the staircase where the incident occurred is one of the only places in the school without cameras. They arranged a meeting with the 3 Class C students, using cameras in the stairwell as a ruse. They claim that the student council was testing them and that they were not informed. It works, and the 3 agree to retract their statement. After returning the dummy cameras he borrowed from Hanami, Ayanokouji receives a call from a clearly distressed Sakura. Her stalker, the clerk from the electronics store, is after her. Before he can act, Ayanokouji and Hanami barricade his exits and notify the authorities. Meanwhile, on the roof, Chabashira confronts Suzune about how she convinced them to drop the case. When she refuses to answer, the teacher shifts gears and warns her to be cautious of Ayanokouji. D-class is for rejects. Why would someone so capable conceal his true abilities? Simultaneously, Manabu congratulates Ayanokouji on his success while maintaining that it was all Suzune's idea. Regardless, Manabu offers him a position on the student council as a secretary, which he declines. Suzune appears, as if she overheard the conversation. After failing to expel Koudo, the 3 students in Class C are punished by their teacher. He demands to know the identity of the person who duped them. When he runs into one of Class A's leaders, he promises to come after her as well. There can only be one. School ruler. Suzune stops Ayanokouji while they are walking in the rain and accuses him of orchestrating everything, questioning his motive. He plays it off as usual, and she presses him, curious as to who he is. This causes a flashback to him as a child, presumably in some institution with other children, as one of them collapses. He promises Suzune that if she stays out of his life, he'll help her get to class as Suzune continues to ignore Ayanokouji's phone calls until she finally caves and agrees to go to the pool. Koudo, Kanji, Haruki, and their leader Hideo meet the night before to plan an infiltration into the girls' changing room to set up cameras. Hideo observes the pool area area from a window after they all arrive, communicating with walkie-talkies and overwrought hand signals. Haruki infiltrates the area disguised as a janitor and closes it off while the others play volleyball. When Kakeru and his lackeys from Class C arrive at the changing rooms, they must alter their plans. Koudo rushes in and confronts them, stalling them long enough for Kanji to flee. Hideo alerts Ayanokouji, who is aware of the plan, and has Suzune deliver a speech about Class C rising through the ranks to reach Class A from the top diving board. This draws everyone in the neighborhood. Suzune removes the SD cards from the cameras after Kanji escapes and Ayanokouji informs her of the plan. He decides to push her into the pool after she denies having fun, resulting in a splash fight between Class D students. Later, he sends her a group photo, which elicits a rare smile from her as she collapses on her bed. Chabashira informs Ayanokouji that a man has contacted the school requesting his immediate expulsion. She'll cover for him. All he has to do is work his way up to Class A. He refuses but is forced to comply after she reminds him that he'll lose his freedom if he doesn't comply. The first-year students are on a field trip, but it feels more like a vacation because they are staying on a luxury cruise ship. Ayanokouji and Suzune don't think it's just a vacation. There appears to be a boarding house on an island large enough to house every student. Ruin approaches her and attempts to manipulate her with the security camera bluff. When another Class C student, Ibuki, calls him out for something, his bodyguard Albert stops her. Sekura practices asking Ayanokouji out before being surprised by his appearance behind her, and fleeing as Kushida notices them together. He tries to flee but is stopped by Kushida. Her demeanor shifts once more. She accuses him of being tired of her, but he doesn't deny it. She returns to admitting she's lonely. He simply mumbles a goodnight and walks away. When they arrive at the island, the true purpose of the cruise is revealed. The students must survive for 1 week on a deserted island. Class 1D goes over their resources as well as the test rules. They debate whether to spend some of their initial 300 points early on, knowing that they will be converted to class points at the end of the week, boosting their class rankings. The class decides to set up camp first, while Ayanokouji wonders if Suzune will be okay. He agrees to scout ahead with Sekura and Konji, who mysteriously vanishes while swinging through the trees. They continue down the path and come across a cave, which is most likely one of the landmarks mentioned by Chabashira. If a group leader occupies it, they receive a bonus point that cannot be used during the test. Finally, correctly guessing the leader of another group earns an extra 50 points. However, if the guess is incorrect, that value becomes a penalty. If the leader of a class is incorrectly identified, that class receives a 50-point penalty and loses all bonus points earned during the week. When Katsuragi and Totsuka from Class A exit the cave, almost discovering their position, Ayanokouji stops Sekura from being hasty, covering her mouth and hiding behind a tree. They confirm the occupation after Sekura deduces that Katsuragi is the leader because he is holding a key card. Meanwhile, Class 1D locates a location near a river. The next step is to choose a leader. The occupation must be renewed every 8 hours. Kushida suggests Suzune, and everyone agrees. They'll gather around the console each time to conceal her identity. Ayanokouji comes across an injured Ibuki while looking for resources and invites her back to stay with them. Though hesitant at first, she is surprised that they would assist someone from Class C. She believes they should regard her as the enemy. Everything is going well as the group celebrates their first day's progress when they learn that Konji, who had gone missing earlier, has returned to the ship. The class loses 30 points, and the person who claims to be too sick to continue must stay. Another flashback occurs for Ayanokouji, in which a faceless man tells him that having great power while not using it to his advantage is for fools. Ayanokouji and Suzune leave for the other classes' camps on the second day of the test. Class B's camp is run in the same manner as theirs. They also have a Class C member who was apparently kicked out of their camp. Class A is heavily armed and guards the cave. They refuse to let them inside. Class C is set up on a beach where Ruin and his followers are partying with no intention of staying on the island for the entire week. Ayanokouji notices a walkie-talkie next to him on the table. They will not be penalized for returning to the ship because they have used all of their points. Someone is seen breaking into the girls' tent on the third night and searching Ibuki's bag for her cell phone. Class C's departure is confirmed on the fourth day. Karuizawa discovers on the fifth that her underwear has been stolen. Disagreement between the girls and boys grows, and the former demands a bag search. Yamachi discovers it in Ike's bag and gives it to Ayanokouji to keep in his pocket. When the search yields no results, a pat-down is requested. When Yasuke, the class representative, searches for him, he declares that the second search is negative, thus covering for Ayanokouji. Yasuke confronts him later and confirms what occurred. taking the underwear himself because it belongs to his girlfriend and is much easier to explain. Because the trust between boys and girls has eroded, they decide to divide the camp in two. The girls choose Yasuke to keep an eye on the boys and move the tent. Suzune chooses Ayanokouji to keep an eye on him as well. Ibuki asks who he believes stole the underwear because everyone suspects her, but he says he trusts her. Ayanokouji confronts Suzune about her health that night, knowing she's been sick the entire trip, taking her temperature. The next day, he asks her to show him the key card to confirm its appearance because he's only seen one from afar, though he isn't sure when he sees it. Yamachi puts mud in her hair as a joke, but Suzune surprises him by knocking him down. She washes off at a nearby waterfall. When she returns, she takes Ayanokouji aside and informs him that the key card has been stolen. She remains behind as he returns to camp. After a while, she notices a pillar of smoke coming from the direction of the camp. The survival test manual was set on fire, adding to the chaos. During the panic, Ibuki flees and Suzune pursues her. When confronted, she accuses Ibuki of stealing the card, and when she goes to check her bag, she attacks Suzune. She finally admits she was the thief and knocks Suzune out before handing over the card to the student who requested it. Ibuki unearths the walkie-talkie she buried and informs Katsuragi of class about the recovery of the card. It turns out they're collaborating with Class C. Ayanokouji rescues Suzune from the rain and tells her what happened after she awakens. As her illness worsens, he tries to persuade her to withdraw, but she refuses, feeling guilty about losing the card. He takes it upon himself to knock her out and transports her to the beach to explain the situation. On the last day, the classes are asked to write down their best guesses for the other class leaders. They all congregate on the beach. Ruin appears out of nowhere as the sole survivor of Class C. Katsuragi thanks him for his assistance in Class A's victory. However, Ruin tells him to wait because something exciting is about to happen. On the first day, Class C signed a contract with Class A under which Class C transfers 200 S points worth of goods to Class A. Class C identifies and informs Class A of the leaders of Classes B and D. Ruin sent spies to their camps and spent the last 100 S points before the rest of Class C dropped out while he remained. Ibuki's camera had broken, so she needed the physical card as proof. On the final day, he jotted down the names of the leaders, confident that his team would win. However, when the results are revealed, everyone is completely taken aback. Class C came in last with 0 points, Class A came in third with 120 points, Class B came in second with 140 points, and Class D came in first with 225 points. Suzune confronts Ayanokouji about his actions. He suspected Ibuki was a spy from the start, destroying her digital camera to force her to steal the key card and setting fire to the manual to give her a chance to flee. He saw Katsuragi with the key card on the first day and knew the leader was the only other person with him, as cautious as he is. After seeing the two-way radio, he realized Ruin had been on the island the entire time and had to be their leader. He didn't bother looking for Class B's leader because of their alliance. Suzune is stunned, unable to believe how he did it and perplexed as to his motivation for assisting her. But before he can respond, Suzune is surrounded. He's already told them it was all her idea, as is customary. Kushida tells him she regrets not having a hidden side, assuming Ayanokouji would prefer Suzune over her, despite the fact that his response tells her nothing. He goes to see their teacher, who compliments him. She reveals that his father was the one who requested his expulsion, but he promised to leave on his own. Suzune confronts him. Flustered, she regards him as an ally. He's still talking while zoning out. He doesn't see her or anyone else as an ally. People are nothing more than tools to him, and he is unconcerned about what he must do or sacrifice. He's there to win in the end. Nothing else is important. This was it for today. Subscribe to my channel to watch more recaps.